Welcome. My name is Per Schofors and I'm the founder and CEO of Atenga. This is the third part of 6 short presentations on price optimization. Each part is about 10 minutes long. What you will learn is how with optimized prices and the processes necessary for price optimization, companies can fight commoditization, downward pricing pressure, and increase both sales and profits. This presentation summarizes what we learned from making several hundred price optimization projects in all different industries. I will use a number of case studies in this presentation, and while it's possible that they are from your industry, it is unlikely. So please think, how should this apply to me, to my company, to my circumstance? What can I learn? In the first part, I spoke about commoditization, what it does for your pricing power, and also as a business leader, how you can fight back, return pricing power to at least a portion of your business. In the second part, I spoke about how you can gain or regain pricing power depending on how you sell and how you present what you sell. So there's hope. There's a solid, well-tested and working process that helps companies to fight back. And it starts with a deep dive into the marketplace's perceptions. Perceptions of value, perceptions of benefit. But price optimization is so much more than just price. When replacing gut feel and guesses about the marketplace with hard data and creating a solid information platform from where companies can improve competitiveness, sales volume, revenues, and profits. To illustrate that deep dive, I will talk about a CRO. This is a service organization, a contract research organization. Biotech companies are expert on the drugs they develop, but less so on the FDA approval process. This means that these companies often outsource the management of their clinical trials and the whole approval process to these CROs. Now, for this case study, it's important to bear in mind that we're talking about process outsourcing here, not outsourcing of any technical competence. This chart shows some of the purchase drivers of the company's customers. Therapeutic Experience are on the top. Then we add the company's internal perceptions on what is important for their customers. You can see that there is some reasonable correlation between how the company and the customers value work qualities, but others are completely off. Let's talk about the top one first, Therapeutic Experience. The company, the CRO, were just managing a process, and the process is the same no matter what drugs are involved. So they just never talked much about their therapeutic experience. Yet customers feel this is the most important purchase driver. And when a prospect brought up therapeutic experience, the company responded saying that the process is the same. This convinced few prospects, but not that many. Then look at the bottom one, Geographic Proximity. Why did the company think this is so important, yet customers did not? Well, whenever the CRO lost a deal, they diligently asked why. The company only had one location in San Diego, and therefore it became very easy for a prospect to blame that single location as the reason for not buying, by simply saying that you're not in Virginia or you're not in the Bay Area. The prospect got a very quick and effective excuse and way to end any follow-up conversation. There was not much the company could argue with that argument, since, in fact, they only had one location. The excuse was obviously true in some cases, but more often than not, it was just that. It was an excuse. But let me go back to Therapeutic Experience. I know you cannot read this chart, it's too detailed. But the point I want to make is that this is the company's own perception of their experience. You can see the various therapeutic areas on the x-axis. And since the company didn't think therapeutic experience, it didn't see it as important, not even within the management team were there agreement on what these therapeutic areas were. 3/4 of the management agreed that they had experience with cancer drugs, while only a single person knew they had experience with fertility drugs, transfusion, and hormone therapy. And then when you add the perception of therapeutic experience that the customers had, here in the red bars, you see a very large gap. The only therapeutic experience there's any reasonable correlation between internal and external perceptions are cancer. The rest are all over the map. To summarize here, the company didn't think it was important. They therefore didn't know what experience they had. It was never part of their marketing. It was never part of their sales. Therefore, customers also didn't know. And this is for the most important decision driver. And the solution was so simple. It was to generate bundles related to the various therapeutic areas and create marketing literature and website content to match. This created clarity in the minds of their customers and also for the company. If a customer were working with a drug for insomnia or for cardiovascular disease, it was very easy for them to read and understand the process as it related to their therapeutic area, even if the services and the process for both was in fact the same. The result here was that these bundles generated 25% of new business. And not only that, these bundles drove a 12% higher willingness to pay for that same service. So that deep dive into the marketplace is not only to better understand perceptions, it is also about getting a deepened, enhanced knowledge of your customers' decision landscape, their decision drivers and their value drivers. And companies, more often than not, say they know this. They say they know the perceptions, they know the value drivers, know the decision landscape. And of course they do, to some extent. But in our experience, just like in the case study I just showed, never is that information as detailed, as qualified as companies think it is. Now, why is that? Because customer lies. Okay. Not always intentionally and not always all the time. But the fact is that when a company has conversations with their clients and with their prospects, they will tell stories to make the company believe they are a commodity. They will withhold information. They will tell stories. They will say the price is too high, no matter what they really think. And they lie because they want to know they get a future advantage. They want to convince the company that the company is a commodity. Because if they are, they will get a better deal, a lower price, more for the money. And it works. But let's look at some companies who take a very different approach. Companies who see pricing and price optimization as key business drivers. I'm going to talk about pricing champions. A pricing champion put pricing at the forefront of their business strategy. Their executives talk about it, their executive compensation plans and their sales compensation plans include a component for pricing achievement. They take price optimization very seriously. You typically know who the price champions are in your industry. They are the high-priced, high-value companies, and more often than not, they are the market leaders. In the next 2 slides, I will give you examples. These are 2 public companies, and I use them in this presentation because they are public and because their data therefore is available, and you are probably familiar with them. Not only that, these are old companies in mature industries. Yet they manage to earn superior profits and have superior growth. But don't be discouraged by these companies because of their size and their type. The same price focus can be applied to any company, public or not, large or small. We start with Parker Hannifin. They're a diverse manufacturer of motion and control technologies and systems for industry. We've been following these companies for several years. In 2002, the new CEO took over, and he decided to make pricing a centerpiece of his strategy. And as you can see from the CFO's comments, pricing was publicly announced. The company has about 800,000 SKUs, and the CEO did need a drastic change. Beforehand, they just took their cost, they multiplied it by 135, and whoopee, that was the price. This generated gross profit margins on just under 10%. But with optimized pricing, the story is very different. As you can see, the company now earns almost 25% gross margin in an old, established manufacturing business. Also look at how the margins are almost unchanged as revenues drop during the recent recession. The company didn't resort to discounting, but they held price. Emerson Electric is another diverse manufacturing company, selling products and engineering services in both industrial, commercial, and consumer market. The company has 60 plus operating divisions within 5 business units. And also here you can see a quite remarkably gross margin for an old established company. In fact, one of our associates is the person who introduced price optimization at Emerson. He worked directly under the chairman, and over a 5-year period he introduced price optimization to each of the operating divisions. And in many he installed local pricing managers. But let me tell you a story related to this. I was visiting the pricing VP of about $1 billion company in the biotech space. The phone rang, he picks up, and he gestured that I could stay. I understand from hearing one side of the story, it was a negotiation about a financial target. He hung up, turned to me, and he said, "That was my CEO, and we discussed the pricing target for next year. He wanted 30 millions, and I said I can only give him 25. So we settled on 28. But I already got 30 million in the bag. So it's going to be a great year." The lesson to learn here is 2 things. First, they had a person with staff solely responsible for pricing. The second is that the company had very specific goals for pricing. The VP was directly responsible for adding 28 million, or about 3% of revenue, directly to the bottom line profit. But this was not a one-off event. This is what they added every year. Now, think about this for a second for your company. If you could add every year 3% of your revenue as pure profit to your company, what will you do with all that money? Okay? I know what you will do. With that money, you will start a positive reinforcement cycle. You will have more money to develop and market your products and services. More money to increase your competitiveness and shareholder value. Okay? More money to become the market leader. So let's summarize what we talked about in this part of the series. To fight downward pricing pressure, to fight commoditization, to develop the segmentation you need to take your company to the next level, you need to make a deep dive into the willingness to pay, the perceptions, the value drivers, the decision drivers, and the decision landscape of your marketplace. And just asking your customers ain't cutting it. We also learned that some companies take pricing very serious. They live and breathe pricing. It's never an afterthought. And again, you probably know who these are in your industry. They are the high value, high growth market leaders. So consider that. Unless you're already one of those, you can become it. Okay, thanks for your time today. In the next episode in this series, we'll be discussing the psychology of pricing. See you then.